Thank you everyone for being here today. We're opening this new conversation, the first one to be in the Earth Action Hub for the next 3 days. And this is going to be actually a very unique conversation because it's called Understanding Our Past as Nature New Warriors. And it's a conversation between two wonderful elders and two equally wonderful young people, I would say young women. And it's when the elders sit in circle with the youth and the youth sit in circle with the elders. And they share their wisdom, their traditions, but mostly their heart. And it would be such a special conversation that I feel will stay in all our hearts for a long time. And I'm very grateful to our participants, to our viewers, to be there with us, listening to this incredible wisdom from these four very special human beings. And we also ask our viewers to put wherever they are come from in the chat, and use the chat a place where also you can exchange your wisdom and your heart with all of us, because we also want to hear from you. And at the end, we'll be able also for 1 or 2 questions to be answered. So please put them in the chat and we'll try to do our best. And we have here with us Elder Dave Courchene from the Anishinaabe Nation, and also he's the chair of the National Turtle Lodge Council of Knowledge Keepers. And also we have Grandmother Susan Kayolani Stanton. She is a Haudenosaunee and Hawai'ian and Mohawk elder and grandmother. She's many, many, many things. And she's wonderful. She's the founder and senior grandmother of the Grandmother Circle of the Earth. And also she now created an incredible new project called Wind Voices Series that does this very special webinars with elders happening every Sunday. Then we have Samia from Brazil, who is not just a very special, as I was saying, young woman. She's also a biologist and co-founder of Earth Action Hub. Then we have Jessica from the United Kingdom, a very passionate environmentalist and another co-founder of Earth Action Hub and a like-hearted young woman. So now we kick off, and I ask Elder Dave Courchene, please, to share with us his wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paula. Let me begin by acknowledging the young people who have initiated this project, Earth Action Hub. It falls within the same spirit of concern that we have as Indigenous people about the accelerated climate breakdown that humankind has created. We have entered into an unprecedented time that will require serious choices to be made. As humanity, we continue to struggle in finding our true identity. After much reflection and witnessing what is happening to our world, it has become quite clear that humanity is suffering from the mindset of domination that originated from the idea that we could control and dominate nature. The land is the foundation of life and must be treated with absolute respect. To do anything less, we harm not only the earth, but ourselves. The root of our dilemma, which has created symptoms such as climate change, violence, mental illness, and racism, is a severing of our relationship with our source of life, the earth. When we lose touch with the earth, we lose our connection to our true spiritual identity. And a true understanding of our uniqueness, our purpose, and our original instructions, our duties and responsibilities. When we go to the root, our solutions lie in reestablishing our sacred connection and relationship with the earth. Our health and well-being as human beings is directly connected to the health and well-being of Mother Earth. We have made the land sick. The earth operates on the principle of balance and natural living laws. When we comply with these natural laws, we can restore the balance of our source of life. When our mother feels well, we, her children, will become well again. Each person needs to make their journey to the land to feel their own spirit and find their own identity. No human being can ever tell another what their identity should be. Only once that journey has been made will one love themselves as they are. It's not just about going to the land. It's about rekindling our spiritual relationship with the land. And in doing so, rekindling the spiritual part of our nature and our true identity as humanity. Before we go to the land to engage with and receive from the land, we always do a ceremony of gratitude to thank the spirit and the land and create sacred relationship. Showing gratitude rekindles the spiritual part of our nature and makes us kind and humble. We are challenged today to reach a new level of understanding that we must live in compliance with the laws of nature. We must seek our own personal visions that must be born from the heart. Change ultimately begins from each of us. The majority of discussions taking place are primarily from a political, scientific, or intellectual level. There's very little mention of the spiritual realm. One of the most significant laws of nature is the law of balance. Nature will now bring back balance, and in doing so, we will witness the real power and the force of nature. Our idea of survival will change drastically. In bringing back balance, much of what is destroying life will be removed. Nature does not negotiate her laws. They are self-enforcing for the good of all life and all creation. Our elders constantly remind us the most important element of our nature is the spirit. They say, never overstep the beginning. The beginning is the spirit. The spirit is the voice you hear in your heart. The answers you are looking for are within you. The purpose of the rites of passage is to hear the voice within you. It is done by being in the environment of Mother Earth. It is during this time on the land you abstain from food and water. The elders say, clean yourself for the spirit to come to you. While on the land, use your natural senses to hear and to smell the land. Dreams and visions have always guided us. It was through dreams we were given the gifts we hold today. The sacred pipe, the sacred drum, our languages, our teachings, our laws that come from the spirit and the land. For thousands of years, the vision quest has been the rite of passage to manhood for young Indigenous boys. Boys become men by being initiated by a woman in a process that is started by their own mothers. At the age of puberty, they go to the land to fast for 4 days on Mother Earth, the first mother and the source of life for us all. Reaching out in humbleness to the Great Spirit to bring them a vision or a dream that will help bring meaning and purpose to their life. This rite of passage teaches the young boy no one can find his life for him but himself. Most of the questions that we have in life cannot be answered until we have earned the right to receive the answer. Young women also have their rites of passage, best explained by the grandmothers. They are the life givers, they are the law. The world is in need of a new thought, a new plan, a new vision. And it begins by returning to the spirit and the land to nurture a sacred relationship. There is no greater way to show appreciation and gratitude to the Creator than by loving the land and returning the love the land is giving to us. Once an individual seeks their vision, it inevitably leads to a collective. For humankind to have a collective capacity to work together, taking care of the earth. Each of us has a beautiful gift. We are not the same, and that uniqueness within the human family is there to create a better world. The youth of today should be offered an education based on spiritual connection with the land. A spiritual earth-based education must be established as the foundation to all forms of education, complete with ceremony, teachings, and ancient approaches of connecting to the land, including the rites of passage for all young people. It is through the knowledge keeper's guidance, teachings and ceremonies they conduct that the youth can be supported in knowing and feeling the land. There is no way around this if we want to become full participants in nature, in creation, in your own personal survival. It's important that we create places of sacred knowledge, sacred lodges that reflect an understanding of our relationship to creation, for healing, for sharing teachings, and for the young women and men to have a place to go for their teachings and their sacred rites of passage. We have an existing model that came through a vision I received called the Turtle Lodge, Te Boigamik. It's a place of healing, learning truth, spiritual law, natural law, a place of the heart. This is a model that can exist in any part of the world for those who want to share and learn the original teachings that reflect their spiritual identity in their homeland. The vision of these lodges is to create an experience of spirit connected to the land. Everyone is welcome to be a part of this new way of life, to help build and contribute to these lodges and give using their individual spiritual gifts. The uniqueness of our approach lies in reconnecting young people with nature as a basis to help change the attitude of dominating the earth to one of respect and compliance with natural laws. I encourage the youth to become unified in taking care of the earth. When we feel the love of the land, it is this love we naturally share with all. We develop the attitude of working together with the common spirit of loving the land, then that love can grow and extend to humanity itself. This will create the foundation of good relations and a paradigm for a new world. It must be led by the people of the heart. Are you a person of the heart? Miigwech. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your words and wisdom, Elder Dave. Especially when you say people from the heart of the heart, because that's what I've been learning along the way, to be in my heart and not my mind that can play little tricks here and there. And now I give the talking stick to beloved Grandmother Susan, that I can see in action with the ceremony. Thank you, Grandmother Susan.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Elder Dave. That was beautiful, everything that you said, and resonated with me. And I'm grateful to be able, as I said a little bit earlier, to be here in the circle with all of you. So as I was praying and asking for guidance and the things that I would share, I felt strongly that I should be speaking as a grandmother to the granddaughters. And I was thinking, oh, but you know, what about the grandsons? And then Elder Dave addressed them beautifully. So that gives me the opportunity now to share with the granddaughters, but knowing that the grandsons are there as well. We've all been called in and acknowledged as being part of the circle. So I'm going to begin by saying that I am a grandmother, literally biologically a grandmother, but that not all grandmothers are biological grandmothers. I have met men who are grandmothers. I have met little girls who have known how to pick a baby brother up and put him right there on her shoulder and find a way for him to stop crying because she's giving him grandmother love. Grandmother love can be given by, you know, the tree, by the birds. Grandmother love is a universal love, a blessing of love, and that's the grandmother heart. So as a grandmother, I believe that I have a care, a responsibility, and a stewardship for all life, all living. And that includes the water and the wind and the trees. And so that, with that in mind, I'm going to begin by sharing that 44 years ago, I gave birth to my son. My daughter's 51. She's going to say, Mom, I can't believe you're telling everybody how old I am. But my son is 44 this year. And 44 years ago, I had a dream. And in the dream, I saw a woman, and she was standing on a precipice of land, jutting out into the ocean. And it was really tall, a really sheer cliff. And I could see her as though I were above her looking down at her. And she had long black hair, and it was blowing in the wind. And behind her was a type of a pedestal that had carvings in there, some form of petroglyph or some ancient writing. And as I was looking down at her and I could look out into the ocean, suddenly I became her. And as I did, as I moved into her, I was filled with this pain, this sadness, true sadness. And I realized that underneath that ocean, which was clear and smooth as glass, there was a city. And in that city were people that I loved. And I knew that I had tried so hard to raise a warning voice to them, but they had ignored me. And as a result, they were where they were, and I was where I am. And I thought, I have to do this. I have to find out what my message is. What is it that I'm to bring? And I didn't have that as a young child, but since then, I have met so many youth who have felt that need to bring that voice and that work forward. And I honor you and I respect you for that. And so what little I can share with you about my own journey, I do so that hopefully something that I say may make yours a little bit easier, a little bit clearer, something there for you. So I'm listening to Elder and his speaking about the Turtle Lodge, and that's beautiful to me. I'm adopted. It's been a long journey, like the little baby kangaroo that must climb up the mother to get into the pocket to survive. I have been seeking to know my family, my beginnings for many, many years. And I just recently found out that I am Snapping Turtle Clan. I had been told earlier I was Wolf Clan, but it's Snapping Turtle. And so this turtle is very much resonating with me. We have a project called the Riverside and Peace with Justice Project. And again, everything that Elder Dave said about the balance that we need and that justice that we need to see in the world as Indigenous people, we understand what that looks like. And we need to return to that, not just Indigenous, but to me, we're all Indigenous to Mother Earth, all of us. She is our mother. And so what she does with her homeostasis, her return to balance, the best way for us to navigate through these changes that we're undergoing now is to become one with her. And that's a return to balance for ourselves. And so as my granddaughters, as the life bearers, I want you to think about that. Everything that you're doing now, even though you're young, you're doing for the unborn faces yet of your children, because they're going to inherit what we're doing here, as will their children and their children. And so our responsibility is not to be a crushing responsibility, it's to be joyful. And as we take with it gratitude for our ability to participate, it will change everything. And even the hardest challenges will become beautiful for us because we will understand and remember why we're doing this. So as I'm thinking about peace with justice, I believe that the only way that we can have peace is when we have in existence laws that are just, true laws, laws in harmony with the natural world. And as we choose to keep those laws, that's what brings us that balance. So I love the words that he used when he said self-enforcing, because no one truly from the outside can force us to do anything. I love the book by Viktor Frankl, where he was in a concentration camp. And it's called Man's Search for Meaning. And he came to the realization that even if all of your freedoms are taken away, even if you cannot move out of a tiny space, you still have the power and the freedom to choose how you're going to feel about that. So I'm going to speak for a moment about Humbleja, about the 4-day fast. I had 2 young women who came to me a few years ago. They were water protectors. They were here on our area of the Mississippi River where the DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline, was coming down across from Canada, the Dakotas, down to here. And it was about to be put underneath the Mississippi River. If it were to break, 31 million people below us would have no drinking water. But not only that, the cornfields that rely on the irrigation of the river, all of that would be affected by this. So these 2 young women were here, and they were doing what they could to stop this. They moved into other places and other areas. And they came to me one time and they said, "Can you please, grandmother, put us out for the 4-day fast?" So I said, "I'll need to pray about it." And I did. And so we began to work together, because it's not something that, you can just overnight, but we worked together. And in the end of this process of preparation, they went through the grandmother's sweat lodge, and they went down and fasted by a little stream that goes into the main river. They were out of sight and sound of each other. There was nobody else with them. They were alone. I encouraged them in their small circle where they sat to listen to whoever comes into their view. Anybody from a little green caterpillar to a bird, to the wind, to a dream. Listen to those things, because these are the message bearers. They were beautiful. They had a beautiful experience. I expected only 5 or 6 people to be here when they came out, and we'd had our firekeeper the whole time to be there at the fire. When they came out, there were over 60 people who were waiting for them. Elders who had come from far away, from Standing Rock and different places, to welcome them back, to hear what they had to share with their words of wisdom, these young women. They have now been arrested because they disabled the truck because they were trying to stop it from hurting the water. They are now looking at 10 to 100 years in prison because it is considered a terrorist action. These young women, like Viktor Frankl, no matter what the outcome is, I have full faith that they will know how to manage whatever the outcome is, because they have learned what true freedom is. True freedom comes when you're standing in your truth. True freedom comes when you're realizing that you're a part of something that's bigger than you. When you realize that your voice has efficacy, it has power to change things, even if it's just one person, even if it's just one person's thought or action, where instead of pouring something poisonous into a puddle of water or a little stream, they'll stop and change. Yesterday, I was up in my area, we have mounds, sacred mounds, and I was up there doing a ceremony with another elder, his wife and himself. He's a pipe carrier, and someone had left a plastic bottle there, a plastic water bottle crunched up. And I automatically picked it up and put it in my pocket. And as I was walking with my hand on that plastic bottle, I was thinking to myself, how easy it is for us to ignore the beauty that's around us. To realize, I mean, surely they had come up there because they had heard that there were sacred things there, and yet they still felt to throw away the plastic bottle that they maybe shouldn't have been drinking with in the first place. And one thing that maybe we can say, one little thing could change so much. I don't know why I shared with you about those young women, except that they are so beautiful and so in my heart. And not everything that we do when we stand up for the truth is going to be easy. You know, it will not be simple. I think about how sometimes your family doesn't agree with you and you find yourself standing alone. How sometimes your friends think you're crazy and you find yourself alone. But that's when you remember why you're doing what you're doing, and that tree is there waiting for you to put your arms around her, because she has a heartbeat. It travels up through her root system, up through her body, and into your own. And you will never, ever, ever be alone. It's impossible. There's no such thing when we become one with everything around us. So, as they say in Lakesh Alakin, I am another you. You are another me. Namaste. I salute the God in you. Aloha keakua kuleana. With the breath of my life, I honor your sacred responsibilities because I know who you are. Every bit of me resonates with you because we are all part of that oneness, who is our grandmother, who is our Mother Earth, who is our Father Sky. So in the morning when you wake up, your very first ceremony counts, because that's the opening door for the rest of your day. It can be something really elaborate. It can be as simple as blowing your breath into your first drink of water so that the water in your body mingles with the water in your cup. And then you drink and you share and you become one. I mean, there's so many ways we can do this. And yes, Paola, I have, people are always teasing me because when I'm on these calls, I'm always doing my sage. And I have a man who's Omaha, he's a Nebraska native man. And he's always teasing me about my smoke. There she goes. There goes Grandmother Susan. And it's a blessing to be known as one who prays. So continue your prayers. Listen to your elders. You know that you have a grandmother, a million grandmothers who love you. The grandmothers above, the grandmothers below, the grandmothers who walk the earth today. As we step into that role of grandmother, and it's not something we call ourselves, it's a gifted name. As we step into that role, we realize the oneness with each of you. And if you ever want to come to me, you're welcome. My home is your home. My heart is your heart. Aho, aho.
Thank you, Grandmother Susan. I love to be in your presence. And the grandmother, as always, so yummy. I feel so much in this incredible cocoon of love. And as you say, of universal love. I have never really had a grandmother in my life, but I'm happy now I have many adopted grandmothers. That is enough for me. And I'm happy the rest of the world can have as many as I have and even more. Thank you, Grandmother Susan. And now I give the talking stick to another young grandmother in training. In training, not yet there, few years still to come. And please, Samia, it's your shift.
Hi. Again, such an honor to be here in the presence of two amazing elders, and Paula and Jess, who are my Earth Action Hub family now. And it's even hard to pick something to say because you both gave us so much knowledge in a few minutes. It's an amazing day to hear all that in the beginning of the Earth Action Hub journey. And I was thinking a lot about the title of our conversation, actually, because understanding our path as nature new warriors, it's a very complex thing. And because our path, our individual path, as Grandmother Susan said, we are never alone, and we should always consider the others in our path. And as the elder Dave Courchene said also, we must know our identity and learn, and actually not learn, but just remind ourselves that we are part of a big system. But I think it's always very complex because you must really know your individual self to act according to your beliefs, and to be really free, as Susan said, to be truly free, we must know what we are and what we are doing. But we are always surrounded by other people, and nowadays, as a young person in my country, in Brazil, I feel always flooded by information, and sometimes we just don't stop to think, and we just go and move forward, and we must run, we must go to the bank, we must open the computer, and we have so many emails, and we have lots of things to do, but sometimes we just don't stop to breathe. And I've learned that breathing is the ultimate connection we have with nature, because whenever you are, if you are in a closed space or outside, you can always breathe, and the air will always be there. So sometimes a simple thing like that, and we just forget. And I think as youth, sometimes we forget we are connected to others and to nature and to our ancestors. And when I think about identity, we just heard from a youth indigenous leader in the opening ceremony. And in Brazil, I know that the indigenous story was kind of erased. We don't learn much about that in school. We don't hear much about indigenous, as we don't hear much about the African people that came to Brazil as slaves in a slave condition, which is not their identity. They are people, brave people who were taken away of their homes and just arrived in another continent. And we don't learn about that either. So actually, we don't know much about our identity as a country. So how can we know about our identity as individuals? We cannot erase our past. We can look at and understand it better. And that's why I think your messages are very valuable to me in my own individual path, because understanding my context, in my personal life, can understand what I can do for the others, what the world is expects from me, and what I can give, because I also have limits. I don't understand about everything. I don't know about so many things, but what can I do, like my little piece of the puzzle? And I think that's my main goal in my individual path, is to understand what I can do for a better world. And that's also why I came to the Earth Action Hub, because I really do believe we can act now, we can do, and I don't believe we have such a thing as small actions or not valuable actions. We have in this event gather amazing speakers. Some of them are huge organizations, and some of the speakers are just individuals with their personal stories. So, and they all have something to share. We have amazing volunteers, so young. A few of them are, I don't know, they sound like also elders because they already did so many things, and they are, I don't know, 18. And when I was 18, I was not aware of all these things. So I hope we are getting better at each generation. And I was also very touched about what you said, Grandmother Susan, about being a grandmother. I never lived with a grandmother. I never had this biological person in my life, but I have lots of grandmothers and grandfathers that I adopted, and they adopted me back. And once I heard from a grandfather that I love, he said, "You will never be fully happy in this world because you still live with many people suffering. Like truly happiness will only be achieved when everyone will be fed and everyone will be feeling home and everyone will be sheltered." And that's also something that speaks to my heart as a person. And I want to be a grandmother one day in a few years and be able to say that I did my best so everyone would be happy. And that's also why I try to keep that in mind, like be respectful to every living being, not just the ones we live directly with, but being respectful to nature. I think we are being respectful with everybody because we are connected. I really do believe in that. And yeah, I think that's something I have to share with you about being individuals, but also being us, a collective. And yeah, I'm truly honored. Thank you. I hope I didn't say something very awkward. I just have many thoughts in my mind right now. I could go on for hours. Thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge with me.
And thank you, Samia, for your wisdom. You'll be a great granny. I'm sure of that. I won't be around to see you granny, but I can see you from above and say, well, I knew she was going to be good. So thank you. So now I pass the talking stick to my next granny in training, Jessica. Look, they called me grandmother last year, and I said, look, guys, I know I have from white hair, I'm not that young, but come. I say, no, I call you grandmother. Okay, what can I say? So Jessica, now you know. It's the talking stick is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. You are another adopted grandmother. I am very lucky to have two biological grandmothers in my life, and they are very special to me, and they have lived in a life that I have never lived in, and they have extra wisdom that I will never, because I didn't live in their times. And when Elder Dave and Grandmother Susan, you speak, I feel very grounded and at peace, and I could listen to you speak all day, and you make me think of so many things, but I can only speak from maybe what I know and what my life brings. And I think I wonder if you have any advice for young people, maybe a bit like me, who live in urban areas, or you know, I live in London, and I wonder how, if you have any advice of how, as well, not just young people, anyone, we can connect back with nature and remind ourselves that everything we have comes from nature. When you have your tea in the morning, you know, be grateful for the water that came there. I'm sitting at my desk made of wood. You know, it didn't just come from anywhere, it came from a tree. And I think it's so easy to forget all these small things that, you know, we just took from nature, and we didn't, you maybe didn't think about where it came from, and maybe you didn't think, you weren't grateful, because I think we forget that we do live in this equilibrium and this balance of all living things, and we think that we sit in the heart of it, but really, you know, we don't. We all sit equally with every other species. And I studied biology like Samia, and I see humans as another species living on this planet with every. We have there is this, and if we're not careful, maybe it has happened a little bit already, but this balance can change. But that's my question. If you have any advice for young people who feel disconnected from nature, how can we get back to feeling like we are all at one with Mother Earth? Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, for your question and your wisdom of recognizing that all we have has been given to us by Mother Earth and nature, including, I would say, our body. Can I ask Elder Dave to please answer how to contour, to relearn that we're part of nature, even when you are in an inner city child and you might not have a tree out of your window and you live in a cubicle, please?
Thank you. You know, I've been asked that question many times, because we find that the majority of the human population are in urban centers. You know, today that we don't have much of the luxury that people that are living so close to the land, you know, to be able to be with nature. But that's no reason why anyone that wants to really feel the closeness of the land is that there has to be effort that is made. Like any other efforts that we make, you know, there has to be commitment put to those efforts. And whenever I visit a city, I always try and look for a park, because usually in a park you'll find trees, you know, you'll find, you know, a space within the city that has some reflection of nature itself. But there's always that opportunity, you know, for those that wish to have that connection to the earth, is to be able to make that journey to the land. I know that here in this part of the country, you know, we have what is called the Victoria Day, or the long weekend. And what we find is that there's just a flood of cars coming out of the cities trying to find the parks and go to the land. And they may not fully realize, you know, the fullness of that experience in going to the land, but something is happening to them while they're making that journey to go to their cottages, you know, to go to the lake, to go to those areas that they can, you know, be more in the environment with nature itself. And simply, to me, what that represents is that the spirit of that individual is pulling them, you know, back to the land, to feel the land. And we have to understand, first of all, you know, that the earth that we call as Mother Earth is a living entity. You know, she breathes like us. She is that living entity with an intelligence, a higher intelligence, like many of our people would say. That if we want to understand life, then we must be able to make that journey to the land, to go to the forest. And one of the things that we've learned in that relationship with the land, and being able to talk to the trees that we call our brothers. And Grandmother Sozin was right, you know, that we're never alone. That, you know, that we talk to the trees, and the trees share what they hear, you know, as we share how we're feeling. whenever we have gatherings on the land, the elders always tell us, be careful, how you act when you're in gatherings, because the trees are watching. Because as they listen to the people in gathering, then they share that message to another tree, and it goes and the message goes. And here we are as human beings, trying to share a message of concern and love that we have for the land. And what I would encourage, the young people is to go to one of the elements of life that we call water, that we find water. Then we talk to the spirit of that water, because we are all interconnected. We're connected to nature itself. But we need individuals, that speak on behalf of the spirit of the land itself. Mother Earth has a voice. And, in ceremonies, we can hear the cry that she has, because of what we are doing to the earth by not showing respect for her, and we are hurting her. So her voice is calling to us, to speak on her behalf. Nature is calling on all of us to speak on behalf of nature itself. So that journey has to be made. And the other thing, as much as we may feel that we're disconnected from nature in the urban centers, but we are not, because as long as we are walking on the earth. Granted, there may be concrete and those type of things, but that concrete cannot overpower the spirit of the land itself. You have to be open to feel that spirit of the land, no matter where you go. No matter where we walk, we must feel that spirit of the land. But the easiest way is to be able to find a place in nature to sit down and to really meditate and try and bring silence, to yourself, so that you can hear nature itself. When we hear the small birds singing, we know it's songs of love that they have for the land, songs of love that they have for life. So you learn many, many things, when you're on the land. And I think that's why I've always encouraged, people today to put more importance to having our young people having the experience to really be touched by the land. Not only should we keep them boxed in these square boxes of classroom, but we should really revolutionize the whole education system and allow our young people, the children, to go to the land. But you must have someone also mentor them and people that can answer the questions that they will have when they're on the land. And that's where the knowledge keepers or the elders come in. They explain what the land means. They explain, what each plant or tree does and how it can serve life. So there's really, in the most simple way, that we have to return to the book of nature. As Indigenous people, we're an oral people, because, what we need to learn is already written on the land. It's written by nature itself. So whatever we want to learn about life, then we return to the land to seek that higher intelligence, because Mother Earth truly does have an higher intelligence. And the other thing, in keeping up with the spirit of that learning, it is said that it is the grandmother's law that holds the deepness of understanding of the sacredness of life. And in our culture, it is the grandmothers that are the law. And it is the role, of the male, to support those laws that are inherent within every woman, because she has been given the gift to bring life. And added to that, of course, is all the deepness of the sacredness of life itself that she carries. So that is why the grandmothers, really have and should have a prominent role in mentorship for everyone. And one of the things they did to us as Indigenous people is they took out our grandmothers, and we went, of course, right into the experience of genocide. And our grandmothers, we didn't have access to them anymore because we were institutionalized, in another way of life. And that's what has created much of the problems that we have in our communities today, because our grandmother's law, has been removed. But what's happening, and I'm very happy to see that there's more of the grandmothers coming back to, to fulfill their role, to teach us about life. So, I just encourage, the young people to go to the land and make that effort. Plan a weekend out somewhere where you can get in your vehicle and go out to, somewhere where they're near the ocean, near the forest, near any part of the land that does, that's not so obstructed with, the current, buildings that we have. And also, reach out for a mentor, call for a mentor in your area, because they're all over the world, but you have to seek them out. And I've heard it said, when you're ready to be taught, your teacher will appear. And I believe that, if your wish is to have someone that can mentor you, put it out there, in your own words, as you express your wishes to the spirit. What is it that you want? And I would really hope that the young people that one of their wishes would be to have mentorship that would guide them, to live these natural laws that we speak about so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Dave. Your words always inspire me, and as I said earlier, they go directly to my heart, and I feel the expansion. Thank you. There is often a question that young people have who are dealing with climate change, who are activists or just passionate about our planet, and are very worried. And the question is, how can I avoid burnout? Like when you are so worried about what's going on the planet and that you feel that you're powerless, that you cannot make it, what can you do to also safeguarding you as a young person? You cannot always look after everyone else, but how do we look after our own self? If Grandmother Susan, if you could have a piece of wisdom to share with us, how to save our own self in these challenging times, please.
It's interesting that you're asking that question, because while Elder Dave was speaking, I was thinking and thinking of that too. And it goes along with what Jessica has asked to me. I believe it goes right along with that as well, because as both of our beautiful young women are talking to us, I see behind them their plants. And in Jessica's case, I see her wall hanging with all my cactus back there. And I know she's in UK. So clearly the world has moved into you and into your surroundings, and both of you. And that's bringing nature there, no matter where you live. So with that part, what you're saying now, I'm just going to start with a little preface that my husband is a wounded veteran. And he has carried these wounds for many, many years. And about 3 or 4 years ago, he had to go into a hospital. And I felt like I wasn't me. Who am I? Where is my grounding? And I've got all these things that I'm doing. And like we're saying, I've got so many things, but who am I? How do I calm myself back? So as being able to participate in Sundance, I do my humblachas. I did them in the mountains in New Mexico and in Arizona, and my 4 days out of fasting. But I can't do that because I'm home now and I've got my responsibilities. But I want to stay connected. I want to feel that even though I'm not able to move into nature, well, how do I move nature into me? How do I bring that here, wherever I am, Chicago or wherever I happen to be? How do I take care of myself now, when to me, being well is being in balance and harmony? So I decided I'm going to do my fasting. I'm going to take it to 1 day, 24 hours. I'm going to do it here in my home. I'm not going to answer the phone. I made a circle, a maybe 10-foot diameter circle. I'm going to sit inside it. I'm going to bring my sacred things in with me. I did it exactly the way I would do it in the forest, only I did it in my front room of my house. I told my friends, I had a sign, do not knock. I told my friends and my family, don't call me. 24 hours I'm going to use to regroup myself into me. And I thought, this is going to be so great. You know what? I'm going to tell you something very honestly. This was the hardest one I ever did, even harder than up in the Mohawk in Arizona where it snowed on me. This was even harder. Here I am in my little room, in my little house. And the first thing I realized after I got into my circle was that I was cold. How can I be cold? I'm in my house, in my living room. I was cold. I got colder and colder and colder because I realized I forgot my blanket on the outside of my circle and I can't bring it in. I can't break my circle. So there was a lesson there for me. Even in this small space, there was a sacred preparation that I had not done my part with. What does this mean? Where am I out of balance? As I began to address that, I began to realize a lot of things. I had, and this is the absolute truth, of all my time sitting alone, it was the strongest, most powerful one ever. And it took place in my home, in that little circle. And at one point, I laid down and I had my elk hide on the floor. And I laid down on my elk and I went into a sleep awake. And my elk got up with me on him and walked around inside my circle. Everything that was out there that mattered had come in with me. My reconnection of myself to my Mother Earth through that small circle and the power of my own intention. I was able to match my heartbeat to hers, my breath to her breath. Those things that I loved were in the circle with me. I was able to do that and realize that it's all about mindfulness, mindful, conscious preparation for us to be pulling ourselves back into balance and harmony. And it doesn't matter where we are. We can do this by that decision. And it was huge. It was a huge learning for me. And I achieved my goal and stepped back into myself. And what I am saying, when I am thinking of your last part to that, is that no matter where we are or who we are or what we are doing, again, we are not alone. And we will never be without the answers that we need when we can only remember that we are a part of something greater than us. And that greater than us has our best interest in heart, in that greater heart. So I hope I'm making sense. I know our time is up and I could go on for years and days and months. Your teacher will appear because also you are your teacher. So your teacher will come. I love that saying. That's absolutely true. So thank you so much, everyone, for allowing me this opportunity. Elder Dave, I love you forever and ever. Paola, everyone else, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grandmother Susan. We all love you as well. And we all love Elder Dave and Samia and Jessica for the wonderful wisdom that both of you have shared with us today. And I'm always amazed how much I'm really actually learning from the youth, how much I learned in the last few months from my team in creating Earth Action Hub. They're all younger than me, but they all taught me some really very special lessons. And I'm in full gratitude to all of them. Somehow they are becoming my elders as well. So we are now wrapping up because there is something else happening with Earth Action Hub and we need to leave the channel open, the platform open to more to come. So we thank really deeply from our heart the four of you. And we hope we'll hear more of your voice in the future. And we thank all our wonderful participants for being here with us today, listening to this incredible wisdom. And we say, look around Earth Action Hub, there are more conversation, more talks, more wisdom, more learning, and more fun and networking of friends waiting to be discovered out there. So thank you very much to everyone, and I'll see you super soon somewhere. Thank you. Bye.